When people don't know themselves, they try to know themselves through someone else. And in that process, they could lose themselves and become that someone else, because that someone else already took the footsteps to become that person, and they like to do things that particular way because it seemed safe, like it was already done and shit like that. Now look, it's all about awareness and it's all about knowing ourselves and shit like that. And there is a such thing as people in the world, spirits and bodies that are more aware and shit like that. So it's like they may understand the world better. They may understand themselves better, and through knowing themselves, they can help you understand yourself and shit like that. But when we look at modern day society and shit, when it comes to like the puppets that are controlling things, when it comes to like entertainment, religion and shit like that, a lot of people get lost in something else outside of them in the exoteric world without knowing how to add their own attributes and characteristics to what is it that they're going about. Because at the end of the day, you got to be yourself. And people that can't be themselves really are stuck still in some type of like trauma, some type of like energy blockage, to the point that like they may have to overuse one side of the brain, let's say, or one side of the mind, one side of the chakra, whether they're stuck in being too speculative or whether they're stuck in being too objective and too logical and shit like that. But it all just comes from a lack of equilibrium and a lack of balance and shit like that. So it's like you can learn about yourself, you can learn about the world from someone outside of you that's more aware of the world, and that can help you enhance your understanding and awareness of it, and that can give you knowledge and shit like that. But at the end of the day, knowledge itself can be like ledges, but at the same time though, you have to be willing to go through these experiences yourself to even get to those ledges and shit like that. Because it take experiences and shit. Because a lot of people don't want to go through new experiences. A lot of people don't want to be uncomfortable. They rather be comfortable within what they've known within the frame of reference of the world that's available to them. But it's like a lot of the shit that is seen comes from the unseen, and you got to be able to connect the two and be willing to go in and out of those forms so you can actually continue to develop yourself along with whatever it is in the world that you're brewing and develop externally and shit like that. Because it's like when you have people that are, you know, and it's not like good or bad or anything like that. It's just that, like I said, and this is what we all do anyways to build up our character and shit like that, to understand ourselves. But it really requires you to know who you are, to have awareness of yourself. And like I said, you can watch someone else outside of you and how aware they is and like understand life and all that at the end of the day. But that's not going to be your own personal energy. That's not energy development. That's really energy dependency and shit like that. So it's like, you got to be willing to go through experiences. You got to be willing to go deal with yourself internally. You got to be willing to be balanced. You got to be willing to unblock your fucking chakras. You have to be unwilling. If you're unwilling to do these things, then you're definitely 100% going to jump into some shit outside of you and try to be that and try to play that and try to be the representation of that, because it's really just demonstrating a lack of knowledge of self. And that's the thing. A lot of people in society don't even know who they are, so they want to jump into comfort zones that are presented by other people outside of them as far as being societal norms and social norms. So when we look at motherfucking modern day entertainers, modern day rappers, or whatever it is that people be into and shit like that, a lot of these young kids, a lot of these young youths, they try to replicate the way these people talk, but they're not even from the same geographical location or from the same place that they is, or grew up in the same environment that they did to even develop that and shit, to be that character or whatever it is. And it's like they'll try to dress like that, they'll try to talk like that, they'll try to like mimic that style. And it's like, and that's not even a bad thing, because we all inspire each other, but really we should all aspire to be like greater versions of who we are and shit like that. And the things and the shit that it take to even get there, but it get really deep, because at the same time though, we gotta understand that, hey, there is puppets put in front of us and shit like that. Like a lot of these people put in front of us just be catering to an agenda and a narrative, and that's why they get that money, but they're truly not happy. It's because they're catering to being like, let's say like a phallic female, or if it's a male, a feminized male and shit like that. They'll get a certain platform so they can push out that agenda and shit like that, so people can become like that. Because the shadow government, the people running things behind closed doors, they know that people don't know themselves. They know people don't go within themselves and actually heal their traumas and actually deal with what's going on within. Because the point of trauma is mind control. The point of trauma is to influence you and put you inside of a box. So when you don't go within yourself, because look, you got to look at your external experiences, because your external experiences is a reference point to show you your internal realm and shit like that. So it's like, if you're going in a situation and you lack emotional intelligence, you can't tell people's intentions, you can't tell why would someone even present an idea like that based on how they feel and shit like that. Of course, you're going to get caught in some logic and some word that someone else presented you without knowing what is that backed up behind as far as what they speculate on getting or going about and shit like that. And vice versa. It's like, if you're so stuck in your speculative realm, you're so stuck in your feelings, your desires, your passions, and you don't know how to like present these things in a respectable way outside of you to get your needs as far as your feelings and your needs and shit. You gotta get your needs met. And it's like, if you're so stuck in your feelings, you're not gonna be able to engineer an expression to get what you need. What you need and shit. It could just be some shit at work. You might be like frustrated, like, damn it, I don't want to be here at work today. And you have to choose, like, are you going to pick the dollar bill or are you going to pick your state of being and shit like that? And so you got to be able to express these things verbally. You got to be able to speak these things out. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the shit that you motherfucking need and shit, right? And that's the thing. So it's like, you gotta do the shadow work. It's like, and it's not even the shadow work. It's just really, when you jump from point A to point B, internally, externally, internally, where it's like someone else can externalize something and have you internalize it, or you can internalize something that's been deeply internalized in your childhood. Because a lot of the times, the traumas that people expose us to as far and shit like that just be things that were experienced by us frequently and intensely. Because kids don't like to be in boxes and shit, but parents, they could be at an age where it's like they get older, they get slower, and they may not have the same energy, so they can try to put you out of a box at an early age, so you're not a wild kid that runs around. But really, if there was a positive adult, they would allow you to run around and be a child, because that would remind them of them being young and shit. Like, oh, look at this young kid. Oh, because being young is really just a state of mind. It's a state of being and shit like that. So when you don't know what state of being you're operating out of, you're not going to be able to kind of like reverse engineer the damage that happened and actually begin to engineer the shit that you actually want to see going. But it's like, modern day society teaches people to motherfucking not know who they are. Motherfucking society teaches people to know shit outside of them. Oh yeah, look, you gotta be like Winston Churchill. Oh yeah, look, you gotta be like this person. Oh yeah, you see that reference point outside of you? Be and do that. Don't be yourself. And because it's all about just, at the end of the day, just being polarized in some type of way. They don't want people they don't want people balanced and shit like that. That's not what they want. Because that's just going to destroy what the whole system is based upon. Because the whole system is based upon like manipulation, sitting back, trying to psych someone up into fear or being stressed to take an action that they don't need to take and shit like that. Like love bombing motherfuckers. Like you go to a car dealership, a motherfucker will love bomb you to buy a car and shit like that. They'd be like, oh, this car salesperson loves me or whatever. If you're that goofy to like, go down that quest line, that quest that they presented you and shit like that without even questioning what you're going down the line of and shit like that, right? So it takes for a person to know themselves. It takes for you to have awareness of yourself. Because it's like, the world is just the world, but we see the world as we are. We don't see the world just as it is. So we sit back, we try to assimilate the world, but we don't learn about who we are and why are we assimilating the world in that way? Why are we diagnosing the world in that way? Why are we comprehending the world in that way? Because we're just trying to think and feel, practicalize like other people. We're not actually looking at, okay, what do we have inside of us? What's my starting point? Am I an imaginative person? Am I a practical, logical person? And how should I go about, how should I go about doing things from my own perspective, not someone else's perspective and shit like that? Because like that becomes like you create like a whole new way of doing things. But it takes being uncomfortable. It takes facing the unknown. Because like, don't nobody want to go through something that's unfamiliar and shit like that, right? And here's the thing, going through the unknown, that gives you like certainty that, hey, all you have is the unknown. All you have is uncomfortability. Because that's really where your best development is going to come from dealing with that unfamiliar situation. It's like people that don't want to deal with unfamiliar situations, it's like, it's just being scared of life, basically, because all of life is about going through unfamiliar situations. But it's like, we just have a system that familiarizes us with a certain process, with a certain way of doing things, with a certain way of being and shit like that. So everyone around us is stressed worried, doubtful, fearful. So we sit back and we justify being in that state of being. But that state of being is messing your biology. It's messing with your mental health. So it's like, why would we even sit back and normalize that? So a lot of the shit that we normalize in modern day society be shit that's absolutely fucking retarded. And a lot of the times it takes a motherfucker like me to come out here and with the awareness that I've created to make other people aware. But it's not for the purpose of other people trying to replicate and duplicate what I do personally. That's just what I do from my own point of view based on where I'm at right now in my development. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to create something new. The next day, I'm going to create something new. The next day, I'm going to create something new. But it's all based upon not holding on to anything. Now, look, and there's a lot of spiritual people that are very, aware in the world that I'm very thankful for, that I've learned from plenty of stuff and shit like that. But it takes being uncomfortable to have all that awareness. Because, you guys, like I said, you have to be willing to almost be a fool, because the fool is the person that becomes the magician. So it's like, if you don't jump into that uncomfortable unknown, that unknown situation, you're not going to create your own technical way of doing things, whether it's business, whether it's like, because there's so many ways you can do things, but we just limit it to how the system taught us. Okay, we can't educate ourselves. We got to let a school or college educate us. But a lot of people that created these colleges, a lot of people that created these universities, they didn't even go to school. They just went into the industry, went into the marketplace, and then they created a business called a school, because it's like, since people want to be like someone else outside of them because they lost and shit like that in the external world, based upon knowing that psychology, it becomes an easy sign-off for me to even make more money and shit like that. So it's like there is a thing as not just like a corporate doctor. There is a such thing as an indigenous doctor. There's a such thing as like a herbal doctor. These are all just different ways of trying to deal with the same problems and shit like that. But everybody just like to jump through what's familiar, what's known. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But at the end of the day, you have to maintain awareness of yourself and be aware of the world, because it's like you truly don't know what other people's intentions are. You truly don't know how people feel behind closed doors. Someone can present you an idea, but it could really be backed up by some retarded feeling. Someone can present you some love, but it's really backed up by some intention and some desire that you're unaware of. So it's like, if you're lost either one amongst the right brain spectrum, creativity, visions, feelings, imagination, whatever it is, but you can't engineer that in your own way, externally, you're always going to have a blockage. You might not even be able to express how you feel. You might not even be able to express like certain things from your internal speculative realm, as far as like, you might want to shift off, but you might not express it just due to experiencing a lot of trauma that has to do with shutting down your throat chakra. So now you lack the ability to speak up. You could be very logical, very practical on the left brain spectrum and shit like that. You might think everything is about the external world. Everything is about the seen world. Words. But it's like, you could be so logically stuck into some external shit, you might have no emotional intelligence when it comes to your own internal realm. So it's like, the only thing you might be able to do is construct an expression, construct some form of language, but you might not truly know what feelings to look at to even construct the language, as far as like signs and sigils and shit. That's some other esoteric shit. But that's the thing. So it's like, be balanced. Even when it comes to engaging with someone like me, it's like, yeah, I'm aware of certain shit, but I'm always going to be learning more awareness. I'm always going to be gaining more awareness as my spirit goes through more experiences, to go through more expansions and contractions and shit like that. That's what we all do. But it's like, don't get stuck in either variables. And a lot of the times, like I said, our traumas can get us stuck into one of these sides and shit like that. And we can favor one over the other, and we can get lost in something else outside of us. And based on that being safe and something already being done a particular way, we might feel safe jumping through that hula hoop and shit like that, because we're like, oh yeah, that's how we get there. Look, that person did it that way. Yeah, let me do it that way too. But it's like, there's so many ways you can go about these things, but it takes, because look, everything's already predestined. Everything is already decided. Where you're going has already been decided. Now it's just a matter of how fast you can get there and how long it's going to take you. And a lot of the times, being around people that are spiritually aware of themselves may help you become spiritual yourself, but don't get lost in someone else's spirituality, because that's their own individual way of going about things. So it's like, you got to learn about yourself and apply yourself, not sit back and try to apply someone else's shit and mimic and copy their energy and be a parasite and try to like pirate someone else's shit. So, because at the end of the day, that's going to fall off at the end of the day. Because we just, once you sit back and be like, this person is doing this, but this person is doing this for, this person's been doing for this long, because like, you're going to have the credentials, you're going to have the receipt, you're going to have the character, and you went through the experiences of the unknown to even build that character and shit like that. So yeah, with that being said, make sure that you know yourself, because if you don't know yourself, you will get lost in something else outside of you. Real stuff.